3 to 5 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes? Oh,
Yes.
boy.
Okay.
Thank you, Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters and guests. Many, many moons ago, in a land not so far away from Diamond Bar, there was a Spanish trail. It went through our mountains and actually went mostly almost to the coast. Now, during the time period of the Conestoga wagons, there was a young family. The father had been a trapper, and sadly for the family, when the father had caught other trappers stealing traps and food from some of the local families, he decided to do something about it. The trappers that he told on were not very happy, and they took out their revenge on the family farm, forcing the family to get up, pack their Conestoga, and hit the trail. As they were going down the trail, they came to an area that we now know as Glen Ivy. Glen Ivy had a small oasis, small little lake. And around this little lake, the family had discovered other people who had, through no fault of their own, ended up in their Conestogas and around this lake. The family decided, well, let's pull up here and set up camp for a few days, and we'll see if we like it. See if it's a good fit for our kids. So they set up camp, and the dad headed out into the woods to do some trapping. Now, while the dad was gone, the mom felt really ill and didn't quite know what to do because they hadn't quite set up the campsite. They hadn't completely emptied their wagon, and they hadn't completely set up their tent. The kids stayed in the wagon while Mom slept. Mom heard some noise outside and got up to go see what was going on, while the local mayor, self-appointed mayor of this little oasis, had gathered all the young men who had not been out in the woods that day and said, this family needs their tent set up. Will you set their tent up for them? And he sat there and he made sure that by the time the mom woke up, the tent was completely set up. The dad came back and he was like, wow, how did this all happen? And the mom told him what happened. A few days later, the family decided, well, they had all this food and they wanted to share it with everyone who had helped them out. So they went to another little wagon that was in the area that had set up as a restaurant. The owner of the wagon asked the family, are you a good, ethical family? Do you believe in right and wrong? And do you always try to help those who help you? And Dad was like, yes, we do. The restaurant owner said, fine, put your food into my cauldron, and we'll cook it up over an open fire. And if you're good, when it's finished, it'll be enough to feed the entire camp. Lo and behold, it was. When dinner time came, through one stag, they were able to feed the entire campsite. A few days later, the family once again found out they were in need of some very basic supplies, but they had no money, and they were all out of deer hide to trade. So they go over to a gentleman that was known as the Old Prospector. He ran a little general store, but they noticed no cash ever came or went from the store. The Old Prospector asked them again, are you a good and ethical family? Will you help your neighbors when need be? And will you be willing to stand by your neighbors if they need a hand? And the dad said, yes. Old Prospector said, fine. Take one thing that you do not need, put it in this box, close the box, and take it home. Dad looked at the Old Prospector. He's like, that's kind of strange. So he put something that the family didn't need in the box, took the box home. When they opened it up, it was all the supplies they needed. The Old Prospector had somehow switched what they didn't need for the stuff they actually needed. Not wanted, but needed. The family decided they were going to stay and see what all they can do to help their neighbors. But the moral of the story is, you're willing to stand by your neighbors, if you're willing to take a stand and help those around you, you never know what might come.